What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today I'm very excited because we're actually going to be covering one of my favorite artists of all time, Michael Bublé. And surprisingly, I actually haven't talked about Bublé's music too much on the channel, and I don't really know why. I grew up listening to him ever since like 2009. He's played a big part in my musical style and upbringing. My appreciation for big band and kind of these classic covers of jazz standards. Also his takes on his own original songs and how he incorporates really beautiful elements into them have always stood out to me as a very unique style and one that I've really grown up to appreciate and love a lot. So today I wanted to cover a few things that I personally feel make Michael Bublé's style what it is. And then if you're interested in writing in a similar style, you can certainly take these notes to heart and maybe incorporate some of them into your music if you're interested. But before we really dive in, I want to give you a gift absolutely free, and it's my guide called Write Music in the Style of Disney and Nintendo. So the stuff that we're going to be talking about in this video actually incorporates into Disney music and some Nintendo music as well. So I've put a guide together talking all about the chord progressions, the kind of instrumentation that goes into creating that sort of music that's really fun, really uplifting, and really wants to take you on a journey from start to finish. So it's a totally free guide if you're interested in writing in a similar style as Michael Bublé. Just click on the first link in the description box below and it'll take you there right away. And it's just my gift to you for watching this video. So without further ado, let's kind of jump into the first thing that I noticed really makes Michael Bublé's music sound the way it is. And that is a combination of poppy chord progressions, but with a few added chords in there to make it sound more Broadway style, a little more classical in a way. Not in a way that's boring, but something to kind of spice up a regular pop chord progression, because we hear so many, just 1-4-5-1s or 1-4-6-5 chord progressions that just repeat over and over. But a lot of Michael Bublé's chord progressions that his composers, his songwriters, and arrangers have worked with him, they've basically written some really beautiful ones. So the first example I want to show you is Everything. And this was a song written in 2007 that, or on his album called Call Me Irresponsible. And this song was one of the original songs on the album called Everything. And I'm just going to show you the chorus, and then we'll talk about what the chorus is comprised of in terms of harmony, okay? So let's have a quick listen. And so on and so forth. So let's talk about that a little bit. The song is in the key of D major, and this chorus starts on the 4 chord on G major, then it goes up to the 5 A major, goes back down to D, the tonic, which is, so far very common and very classical in nature, right? Then it goes to the 6 chord, so B minor, and then again we do the same thing. We go 4, 5, 1. And now instead of going back to B minor, he actually has a D7, which basically throws in the C natural right there. And this is kind of interesting because usually in D major we have a C sharp. And I'm going to change the key here to D major. There we go. So when you have a D7, that actually takes away the C sharp and brings in a C natural, which naturally really wants to resolve to the G chord, right? So this is a secondary dominant D7 going to the key of G, or the chord of G. Right? So let me play this one more time. And in this crazy life, and through these crazy times, it's you. And see how nicely that D7 leads to the G, right? And now we're going to take it even further, and we're actually going to go to an F sharp 7, which is again a secondary dominant going to the 6 chord. So just to recap, a secondary dominant is when you take the dominant chord of any note that's not the tonic of the scale. So regularly in D major, the dominant would just be A7 or A, right? But if you in the D major scale, let's say you want to find the dominant of the G note, which is the subdominant, the 4th note of the scale, then you go from G, pretend that's a tonic, go up to the D, which is the dominant of G, create your dominant 7th from there, and there now you have a C natural, so you have a non-diatonic note. When you bring that into the original key, it sounds very interesting. It's like an additional color, and we don't see this in everyday pop, but in music styles like this where it's a little more indie and a little more folky, it really adds a beautiful touch to the existing arrangement, the existing harmony. So let me wrap up this progression here. So we have 4, 5, 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, 5, 7 of 4 going to 4, 5, 7 to 6 going to 6, Then we have the 1-6-4, or basically the one chord in second inversion. So the bass goes down from B to A, which then leads to an E7. And again, we have another secondary dominant, right? So naturally, we would expect this chord, the E7, to go directly to the A7, the 5, which goes to the 1. Instead, after the E7, we actually go to the minor 4 first. So every line, your every word. G minor, minor 4. Again, this is a kind of a musical theater chord here. You're borrowing from the parallel minor, going to the 5-7, going to the 1. So in this course, we have at least like 3 non-diatonic chords being brought in. And that's one really beautiful instance of how he uses regular chord progressions like 4-5-1s, but inserts and replaces certain chords with non-diatonic chords, secondary dominants, parallel minor chords, for example. Those are very, very common. And again, we talk about that in the guide as well. So download that if you haven't already. But anyway, that's kind of the first thing that, for me, influences and marks Michael Bublé's music in a very beautiful and unique way. The second thing is that the melodic contour of his music tends to not have a ton of repeated notes in a row. It has a very beautiful shape, okay? And this is kind of common to, again, Disney music or themes where it takes you kind of on an adventure, on a journey. So if we look at the melody here, and in this crazy life, and through these crazy times, it's you, you make me sing your every line, your every word, your everything. Right? He has some notes that kind of alternate back and forth, but they kind of, right? They kind of rise and they fall. It's you, you make me sing your every line, your every word, your everything. So the range isn't that huge. It's kind of an octave, maybe a ninth, but it kind of rises, it has natural contours, and then it comes back and it falls. And I love how he mixes in a combination of steps with some skips, like going up a third, down a third, and then you kind of have, you go by step again, and then go by third. And there's a bunch of thirds, a bunch of steps in this one. Let's do another song, like let's do Home, for example. And let me go to. So even in that melody there, another summer day has come and gone away in Paris and Rome. I wanna go home. Right? He's kind of singing the notes of the triad, but it still has a beautiful shape. Da, 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 right? Rather than going like da, 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 da. The more static the melody is, kind of the more lyrical, or the more it tends to focus on the lyrics a little bit more in a way. But the more poppy, the more hip-hoppy it is. But the more contour there is, the more theater-ish it sounds, the more operatic it is in a way, the more musical it is, right? So it makes it a lot more interesting when your melodies have a beautiful contour to them. And that's kind of how I like to write my melodies, is with a nice starting point, usually from a lower register, lower octave, and then going up to a higher place, and then kind of coming down at the very end to end off that journey, right? So a lot of Michael Bublé's melodies, original melodies, kind of do that as well. Think about Haven't Met You Yet. Da, 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 all turn out. You do me work, so you work to work it out. And I promise you, kid, that I'll give so much more than I get. I just haven't met you yet. Right? Like this final lick here. I just haven't met you yet. He kind of rises up, over jumps the tonic, comes back down, and lands on the tonic. So there's the more exciting the song is, the bigger the contour is going to be. The bigger the range from the lowest note to the highest note is going to be. So if you're interested in kind of adding more excitement in your songs and making it a little more expressive, kind of deciding on your vocal register, like where you want the lowest notes and the highest notes, where you want those to fit within your voice, that's going to be a very important consideration to think about. And the final thing I want to talk about is not so much a musical technical like tip. It's more of an instrumentation arrangement thing, and that is that his music relies on a lot of live elements, live musicians, live players. And so usually you're going to have pianos, you're going to have guitars, you're going to have light drums, jazz drums, mostly sometimes a big band as well if he's doing a lot of these jazz standard covers. But in a lot of his original music, he uses these really acoustic instruments that are very common to everyday Western culture, but they just sound really good. So let's say Haven't Met You Yet, just go to the chords. So yeah, when you hear that, you hear strings that are filling in the pad in the background. You have a high descant string line. You also have a very emphatic piano doing this like dun dun dun, like that's kind of carrying the groove. You do have the drums that are heavier, but it's more of that acoustic drum sound rather than a very electronic and trap drum beat type of sound, right? And you have a guitar in there kind of strumming along as well, which is really beautiful. And then later in the bridge, he has this whole band of like big band players. See, there's a trumpet there. Right, so in addition to the poppier production of the more processed instruments, you still have those nice strings. You still have that big band elements of those those trumpets and the trombone saxes in there to really beef up the overall arrangement. And that's one thing that I'm always striving to do in my music, is bring more acoustic elements and those natural instruments back into the world of music, and into mainstream areas, right? So there's been a big domination of more electronic elements and processed sound in general, like synthetic elements, throughout the past few decades. But I just think it's really interesting how acoustic instruments and instruments we grew up listening to, like orchestral stuff or even just piano and strings and guitar, drums, like regular band instruments, can give you such a vibe that you don't necessarily get from processed electronic instruments. So that's why I love Michael Bublé's style even to this day, because the acoustic nature of his music always stands out to me, and it just shows me the emotion and the passion that could come from live performances and live musicians all recorded together in a room. And then of course Michael Bublé's beautiful voice. Some might disagree, but I love the tone of his voice and the way he sings. That's like the cherry on the top, because he has some wonderful composers, songwriters, and arrangers that build up the foundation of the song for him. And all he has to do is basically sing the melody on top. Maybe he's written it or he's played a couple chords on the piano and they take it from there. But it is a multi-person effort. It's a huge team that he has to put this all together for him. And the end result is always beautiful. So at the time of this recording, he's going to be releasing another album soon, I hope. And I'm looking forward to hearing which songs he covers. Some are new originals. The newer originals in the more recent albums haven't stood out to me as much. I haven't liked them as much just because they tend to be a little on the simpler side. I think he's going for more of a popular sound. But his originals from like 05 to 09 especially were the ones I liked the most. So like Home and Everything, and I think Feeling Good was original as well. I could be wrong about that. And Haven't Met You Yet is obviously a classic. It's a Beautiful Day is pretty good. It's kind of similar to Haven't Met You Yet. Nobody But Me is kind of a little more poppier on the more process side of things, but it still has those acoustic elements as well. And he still has those beautiful covers that he likes to do as well. So anyway, just a little video showing you some of the elements that make Michael Bublé's music the way it is. My personal favorites are really the ones that have beautiful harmonic elements and melodies that are very singable, that have a beautiful shape and kind of match what the lyrics are talking about. Those are always really, really nice. So if you're interested, let me know in a comment below what you think of Michael Bublé's music, if you really listen to it at all, or maybe that style is just not really for you, man. I totally understand. Everyone has a different taste, but for me, I grew up listening to most of his music, and I've downloaded all of his albums, so I really appreciate the style he's working in and trying to bring back into the mainstream. So Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Again, please remember to download the Writing in the Style of Disney and Nintendo guide. It does go over these elements that we talked about in this video. And if you're interested in writing in a more kind of expansive, beautiful style, then I think this guide will really, really help you out. And it's totally free. So check out the first link in the description box and let me know what you think in a comment below as well. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in another video very soon and take care. Bye-bye, my friends.